Hey guys, it's Sierra, your host,
Hi, it's Joanna, your co host.
and you're listening to the Color of Home podcast. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Color of Home podcast. We're so happy to have you here with us today. So today's topic is about grief, and it's going to be a two-part series. We have a lot to discuss on this topic, and we want to go deep into it. We don't want to just skim the surface of it, so we're going to do a two-part series. So I'll be sharing my side of the story, and then Joanna will share her experience as well. So let's dive right on in.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. Like Sierra mentioned, today's topic is a little bit more heavier. We'll be talking about grief and what grief looks like for TCKs and not just TCKs, but grief in general for those that are struggling. So, we're excited to have you guys and and we're going to be very vulnerable. This is something that we feel like God has placed in our hearts, and we're really excited to just share this and work through some things with you guys.
So what is grief? Joanna, do you have a good definition for us on what grief looks like?
Yes. You know what? I'm not going to give my own definition because I feel like it'll be messed up, but I am going to read it from Google, y'all. From Google.
Yes.
Google has good definitions.
Yes.
Yeah. Grief. Okay, this is what Google says grief is. Google says, grief is a natural and complex emotional response to a significant loss, whether it's the death of a loved one, a relationship ending, or loss of something meaningful. It involves a range of intense feelings from sadness and shock to anger and disbelief. While often associated with death of a loved one, grief can also occur after other lessons that impact a person's sense of well-being. So that is definition of grief. So
yeah, perfect definition of it, to be honest.
A lot of loss. It basically just comes after loss. Hey Sierra, give us briefly just a little bit about just a few things that you would say that MKs deal with or TCKs deal with grief. Just let's spitfire some examples.
Yeah, absolutely. MKs and TCKs, they go through tons of grieving. I mean, anywhere from friends to family, from a home to a country to food to smells, just so many things that we just have a lot of transitions, and with transitions comes grieving. Those are just a few examples of grieving that MKs or TCKs might experience.
Yeah, exactly. I would definitely say the same thing. Also, it could also be even death too, death of somebody you loved, whether that was somebody that you've known for years while you were, in Papua New Guinea or whatever country you grew up in. And then there's just a lot of loss that TCKs deal with. And I think this is just a really great topic to just talk about because it's something that's really difficult to process, and I think a lot of us don't really know how to navigate through all this. So,
and I think too, a lot of, and I'm going to speak for MKs on this side of things, feel shame in talking about it, or they're scared to talk about it because there's that aspect of having your parents as missionaries on the field, and if you express any form of grief or pain, there's that thought in the back of your mind, if my parents get pulled off the mission field, it's all my fault, right? I should just be able to deal with my emotions. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm not going to...
It's kind of a sign of weakness, you feel. It's I'm not tough enough to go through things, and I can't be vulnerable. Yeah, I agree with you.
And... yeah, exactly. And you don't want to be the one held responsible, essentially, for your parents being taken off the field, and maybe in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, now they're not able to do the work that they were placed there to do by the Lord, and people are going to be saved because of me. And but those are all lies from the enemy, and we need to be able to talk about our pain and process through that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, definitely agree with you. Like, I think that sometimes when we go through MKs, go through, I'm only speaking on MK's behalf because like this is our experience, but like I think when we do go through hardship, I like you said, like I do think it's really hard to just be able to be vulnerable with your parents or even like people that you trust because you're like, yeah, you put there's so much pressure that you put on yourself. Like, yeah, like people are gonna get saved because of me, or like whatever the case may be. Like you said, Sierra, I just think that we need to like figure out how to deal with grief in a healthy way, and like, yeah, I'm really excited to process things. And I think even like today our topic is going to be healing, even just for you and me, like
Yeah.
yeah.
So I know a lot with like grieving and some of the emotions we have and experiences we have had as MKs, that therapy is a great option for this. Have you seen a therapist for any of these things, Joanna?
Yeah, I have. I've done therapy about like 3 times. I feel like there's always things that I keep finding that I need to work through, get healing from. And like, yeah, for me, it's been like really, really helpful. So, yeah, have you, Sierra?
No, I personally haven't gone to therapy yet. I know that I would for sure benefit from it. I think it was always something that I was afraid to do. Um, and I haven't had any like traumatic experiences. When I mean traumatic, I mean there's, like just horrible things happen to me. So I feel like for me, I'm like, no, I don't need that. But as the older I'm getting, I'm definitely realizing I could probably benefit from a lot of
Yeah,
different
I
things.
think that's like a myth. Like a lot of people think that like I have to be dealing with the worst of things just to get therapy. And I'm like, actually, you could come from a perfectly great family and still be dealing with outside traumas or outside
Yeah.
hardships and stuff, and like still be grieving through going through grief. And like just maybe
Yeah.
from moving next door down or like to a new school,
Yeah.
like you could still be going through something. And I think that like that's something that I wish society would just like, like get rid of that mindset that like it's so negative. And like I think it's like so helpful.
Yeah. And tell me your thoughts on this, but for me too, there is always the aspect of like, if I go to therapy, then something with my walk with the Lord is not right because He should be able to fix all my needs. And that's just always been a thought in the back of my head. Like, I should be able to deal with my issues with the Lord. I don't need somebody else to help me. Yeah, give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you know what? That's definitely also like another myth that I've definitely heard. It's like you think that I think that like to be honest, I do think that God places people in therapy to be able to help you. And like I think that we need to like get out of that mindset that like I don't know, it's so hard. It's easy to say, but it's like hard to just like realize that it doesn't mean that you don't have a good walk with God just because you're seeking outside help. I do think that, yeah, that's not a good way of thinking. I think that we
Yeah.
all should, like, if you need therapy, you should go to therapy, at least be open to talk about things with somebody that you trust. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you were saying that maybe God has called someone to go into therapy, to be there for you. Yeah, that's a great point. Never thought of it that way, but
There's different versions of therapy, like not versions, but like some people they prefer Christian therapists and they go strictly through Christian therapists. And I've done both, where I've gone to non-Christian therapists and I've gone through Christian therapists, and it just all depends on like where I'm at in life and like what I'm trying to work through. And
yeah.
like for me, I think both have been helpful in certain times of my life. Like I did like the Christian one, and then but I also kind of just want like just the straight scientific, like what are the psychological things happening and just give me the details and like help me walk through things scientifically. And like
Yeah.
obviously I still think like you should have a mentor or somebody that you trust too, that's a Christian, that's giving you, or friends that are Christians that are like also encouraging you in your walk with God, because that's good to have that side of it too, like because you
Yeah.
definitely need to look after yourself spiritually too.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Because you know, like when you're married, you have those people, mentors in your life who can speak into your
Hmm.
marriage and help you when maybe something is a situation has come up or maybe you're struggling. You have those
Hmm.
people there for you. So, like, what's the difference between having some like a issue that you're struggling with from maybe your past and childhood, and needing just a mentor to help you walk through that? So yeah, that's a great point. Therapy is a great option, and I personally haven't gone through therapy and I know I probably should,
Hmm.
but I've had a lot of people like in my life help me walk through some of the things that I've gone through, and just having like a good community, and people who, have are believers in Christ around you help you walk through that, can be super beneficial as well. So, as you guys know, we were just kind of talking about MKs and, MK specifically because Joanna and I are both MKs. They go through a lot of grief and experience a lot of that within their, young adult lives. Joanna, could you share maybe some examples from your own life of grief and what that's looked like for you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely have had a lot of loss in my life, and I think that to kind of like tell you guys a little bit of that, I kind of have to go to the beginning. And for me, I think the beginning of my loss was when I was 5 years old. I was adopted. I know a lot of people who know me know I was adopted, but also I think that's like a part of my life that I don't think a lot of my friends even ask me about or even like talk to me about much, because I do think it's like a little bit uncomfortable because they're like, do we talk about her parents? Do we talk about what she's gone through in the past before she was adopted? And I think that as a child, like I already had gone through lots of grief with, for me to be adopted, I actually lost my birth mother when I was like maybe 2 or 3. She was actually like killed and stuff, by accident, in Haiti. So that left me and my birth brother Jesse, with just our dad. And yeah, it was like really hard for him to look after like two little kids that were like 2 years old and like 4. And so the best thing for him was to put us up for adoption. And so already at the beginning of my life, I felt like I've already dealt with so much loss, but also like, through God's grace. And yeah, Jesse and I were adopted to like these wonderful missionary couple, Tim and Laurel Schroeder, and their son Rylan. So that's like how my story began. And like, so my parents took 2 years to adopt both me and Jesse. And yeah, and then they went back to the mission field where they'd been working in tribal location. So I think that there was definitely a lot of trauma already at the beginning of my life, and a lot of adjusting to things, of loss of our culture, being Haitian. And that's something I actually really still struggle to this day with, is just like my identity, because it's like I am Canadian, but at the same time I want to identify with my Haitian part of me. And it's like something that I don't really know a lot about, and I don't really have community around me to kind of like walk me through
Yeah.
that. And like, yeah, so there, I feel like I've already, that was like kind of like the beginning of my loss. Like
Yeah.
that for me, the beginning was like a loss of a parent, and then like being loved by new parents, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then like transitioning from, I think the first few, no, the first like few months of me being adopted, I was already in 3 different countries. Like maybe the first year of adoption. So it was like
Wow.
Haiti, Canada, and then like Papua New Guinea. So
Do you remember, like, do you have any memories from Haiti? Like in your mom or dad? Do you have? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
no, to be honest, I don't. And I think that's like something that like I've like actually gone through therapy for, and just like trying to like work through. It's not that like I honestly, because I was so young, I was literally like when I first went to the orphanage, I was like like 3 or 2 years old, and then I wasn't adopted
Mm-hmm.
until me and my brother weren't adopted until I was like 5. So
Wow.
I think that time in my life where it's like such a crucial time for children to get their core
Yeah.
memory, their language, their culture, all that was kind of like very fuzzy for me. So I do
Mm.
remember actually a little bit about when my parents came to Haiti to adopt Jesse and I, and like meeting them, and just like the little like
Wow.
cultural differences, or we're like, what are these white people saying?
So you remember that?
A little bit about that, yeah, a little
Wow.
bit. And like, and also I remember like being on the plane and then like coming to Canada for the first
Oh,
time. Girl, we were
yeah.
adopted in like I think February, and in Canada there was snow. So like
You're
we've
like, what's
never
this white
seen
stuff?
we've never seen snow. And we like
Oh,
literally, I think the
wow.
greatest part is like I remember my parents wanted to they adopted us, but then they weren't able to bring us back to Canada, so they were so sad they had to actually leave us for 3 months or so in Haiti to like
Oh,
then like yeah, they had to go
that's
back to Canada,
heartbreaking.
yeah, without the
Wow.
kids that they thought they were gonna have.
Oh
and
my gosh.
then and then finally all the visas and paperwork all worked out by God's grace. And
Mhm.
then yeah, so then they like flew all the way, like my dad flew back on his own to pick me and Jesse up and take us back to Canada with him. And I
Wow.
remember like we're literally getting off the plane. We have like my dad's sister, Auntie Leslie, on my grandparents and stuff. They're like running through the airport to
Oh,
hug us.
that's so sweet. What beautiful
Yeah.
memories.
Yeah, and
Wow.
they had winter jackets for us, and of course, like we got to experience snow and like all those
Wow.
funny moments and yeah, special moments. So
Wow. That's amazing. I cannot
yeah,
believe I've never asked you that
I
question.
know. I was like, to be honest, like
I think we've
I'm so
talked
open.
about this.
Yeah, I'm so open to talk about things. I just don't think that a lot of my friends even like ask me those questions. But like,
See, I guess I thought that maybe you were adopted as a baby. I don't know. I
oh
guess I didn't
really?
know that you were adopted when you were 5.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. So,
yeah.
do you like have any contact with your birth dad?
I don't know. I think like when we were little in Papua New Guinea, we used to like sponsor like I guess my half siblings to I think they were going to school and stuff. It's kind of like I don't know if you've done that where you like sponsor kids and then like
Yeah.
put them to
Mm-hmm.
school. So we were
Yeah.
doing that with like our half siblings and stuff. And then we lost contact after like the earthquake or something and like
Oh.
but yeah, so I mean there communication has been lost, but like yeah, I don't know how I would ever get back in contact with them, but yeah, like
Yeah.
I kind of also feel like it's such a weird identity crisis for me, like weird
Mm-hmm.
identity thing, because I'm like, yeah, but like my birth father didn't raise me. It was like
Mm.
my parents now who
Yeah.
raised me. So it's just kind of like this
Yeah.
weird of like kind of
Mm-hmm.
adjusting to being like like I don't know, it's like I feel for me
Yeah.
personally I don't really have the desire to go through the ends of the earth to try to find this one
Sure.
person where it's like
Yeah.
who I know now that love me are like my parents. And so
Mm.
and like I don't have any like hardship towards like my birth dad. Like I knew he was doing the best he could and he did what
Mm.
he thought
Yeah.
at that moment was actually yeah beneficial
Mm.
for us. So
Wow. What an
yeah.
amazing story
That's
you
so funny.
have. That's crazy.
Girl, I don't
So
even thought
cool.
we talked about this. We never talked about.
No, I don't remember it. No, I don't think we ever have. Not, yeah,
Wow.
not that I remember. So, wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Do
Hmm.
you think like
Hmm.
the Lord has like softened your heart over time to maybe some of those thoughts that have creeped inside your head? I don't know if you've had thoughts of like, well, why am I here instead of there? Like, why did this happen to me, you
Hmm.
know? Or do you have any
Hmm.
thoughts along those
I
lines?
yeah, you know what? That's it. Yeah, it's something that I still struggle with. Like, it's not why. It's more of like it's I guess a little bit of both because it's like
Mm,
some of my thoughts are like, wow, like I am so lucky because like if you don't know the history of Haiti, like it's such a dark story. There's such
mm,
resilient people who were in through slavery, who were like beaten down time and time again because like nobody believes in them, and these people just keep fighting for their freedom, their liberation. And they're the first like black republic, black like country that ever fought for their own freedom. Like they didn't, they had to fight for their freedom. They wasn't just given. So it's kind of like a cool, powerful thing. But like at the same time, I'm like, I got adopted and chosen out of like hundreds of kids and thousands of kids in Haiti who probably ended up in terrible situations, who might have not even made it if they were my age at that time. But it's like God was just like, no, Jesse and Joanna, you guys are the ones that are going to this specific family. And like, yeah, so like part of it's like really good because it's like, oh, I was like so glad, like God ordained this. And then part of me also is like kind of grieving because I'm like, oh, like I didn't like my family just looks different than other people's families, or like people assume a certain thing about me by meeting me, but then like realizing that, you know, oh, like this is actually very this she's not like who we thought she was. Like the people meet me and just assume I just belong to a black family, which is like cool, but then they're like, oh, you sound different. So yeah, there's that. And maybe just like missing, like wondering, oh, what would it have been like to have had like my real mother there and like grown up like the rest of my friends with like their moms and their dads together and stuff. So yeah, there's like a little bit of loss there that like I do ponder, and like I've worked through and am working through with therapy. So.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of grieving from a very young age on your end of
Yeah,
things.
for sure. Yeah.
I dropped my AirPod. Hang on, it fell out of my ear. Okay.
Nice.
Anyways. Yes. So yeah, anyways, a lot of grieving from a young age.
Yeah.
On your end there. So yeah, holy cow, man, has the Lord taken you through it?
So much. Yeah, for sure. And like, kind of like, I just want to ask you too, because like I know like our stories are so different, but like I know you also through such important stages of your life, you were like moved around and stuff. So like, is there some for you, Sierra? Like, is there some things that you kind of grieved at the earlier stages of your life, like that you went through?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely not as early as you, Joanna. Yeah, I don't think I started my grieving process in life until I was about 10 years old. So when I was 10, that's kind of when my parents decided they wanted to go into ministry. And from that point on, it was just a lot of moving, saying goodbye to friends and family, and schools and all of that. But it wasn't until I was 14 years old, when I moved to Papua New Guinea, when like I really felt like I was grieving. I mean, I think at 10 years old, like, yeah, I was still pretty young. I was sad to leave my grandma and grandpa and move around. But I feel like when you're that young, you're still like in your developmental years where you can adapt really well to different situations. I feel like for me, when I was 10 to like 12, it didn't really bother me as much moving around. I never liked school. I've always hated school. So like that was a struggle, like going from school to school. I've always hated school. Still do. But so yeah, but I would say when I was 14 years old and moving to Papua New Guinea, that's really when I experienced grief in its fullest.
Can I just ask you,
And
what were some of the emotions for you, like for grief? Was it like, were you feeling more anger, or were you feeling more just like, I mean, obviously a sadness, but like, what were some of the emotions, I think, that you were
yeah.
going through?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Definitely a range of emotions. I would
Yeah.
say the first one would be denial. Like before we moved to Papua New Guinea, I was at Mitchell, Nebraska, going to school. And like I just said, I hated school, but I actually enjoyed Mitchell. That was probably my favorite school I've been to. I made some of my really good friends there before going to Papua New Guinea. And so since I really enjoyed school there, it was even harder for me to leave. And I was just like, nope, I'm not going to go. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to go. I even told my parents that they could leave me back in the States and I would just grow up here without them. I was dead serious. I was like, you can leave me here. Like, I don't care. You can leave. I'm not going to this third world country. And they were like, Sarah, that's not an option, unfortunately. And so, definitely denial. And I remember being in school and angry as well, but I just stopped doing my schoolwork here in Mitchell. Now is 8th grade. I just stopped doing my schoolwork completely. Didn't do my homework, didn't pay attention in class at all, and I was failing. I had F's in almost every class. I'm not even joking. Yeah. Like, this was me acting out. I was too scared to, like, run away or do something like that. So I was just like, well, I'm not going to fail all my classes then and show my parents that I'm not going to go. And yeah, that did not work because they still drug me over there. And so, so denial was phase 1, I would say. And then when I got there, I think the second emotion I felt was, or 2 emotions combined together, I would say would be sadness and anger. It's just a wave of emotions that hits you.
Was there a bit of fear too installed in that?
I don't think I had a lot of fear. I think most of it was anger and sadness. The fear hadn't set in yet, so I was just so mad. I hadn't had a chance to think of all the fearful things. But yeah, so definitely sadness and anger. And not just from leaving my country that I grew up in or was a citizen of, but my family, my friends, smells, cleanliness, like everything that was normal to me was just completely ripped away. And so like I was just so angry. And in my mind, like I remember thinking I'm not going to be a normal like teenager or adult because my prime developmental years have been taken away. I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have the opportunity to find.
You didn't think you were going to get married?
No! And it's going to make me cry because these are just like, I just remember the emotions. But I felt, and you guys at this time, like I did not have a walk with the Lord. Like, even though my parents were missionaries, like it's not something that I had personally within myself. And so, it's still something that makes me sad to think about to this day because it could have been handled differently on my end, but as a 14-year-old girl, that's not the forefront of your mind in a lot of cases. And so, anyways, I just like was thinking as this 14-year-old girl, like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to find the one because my opportunities have been taken away. And all I wanted to be was really a wife and a mom one day. And so just thinking that as a 14-year-old girl, like, I don't know, that was something traumatic for me. And then just friends, like, I'm never going to get to go hang out. I'm never going to get to go, this is so dumb, but, like, cruising. Like, I'm never going to get to drive my friends and just things you think about as a teenager, I'm never going to get to go to prom and all these things that I thought I was missing out on. Well, sort of. We went to eat dinner and go back home. Christian prom. So, but, I didn't, at this time, was not looking into the future at all the amazing things that God had in front of me, and the amazing friends He had put in my life. I wasn't looking that far ahead in what could be. At this point, it was a lot of sadness and a lot of anger. And depression as well. I think, so my family, after arriving, we went to a base called Interface, and Interface was a lot more secluded than the main mission base was. We were not as secluded as the families who were living amongst people in the tribe, but we were still surrounded by tribes, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain. But for me, coming from America, I was very secluded. I remember my room being infested with rats, and I am not exaggerating when I say this. Like, Joanna, do you remember coming over for sleepovers to my house and like...
Girl, I don't think I knew you at Interface.
I was just going to say, I don't think we were... I was living there yet when I met
I've
you.
been
It
to
was,
Interface. I've been to that
yeah,
property.
I don't think we
Wow.
knew each other. No, so it
Yeah,
was
this was the
Lindsay
old
and
ones.
yeah, it was Lindsay and Alyssa then that would come over to my house for sleepovers, and we'd be in my room, and you would see like the little tails slither away, or you'd hear the rats chewing on the doors. Like this was
No.
nonstop. Every night of my life, I would hear this, and oh, I hate rats. I have PTSD from this. But so to add on the elements of a third world country on top of grieving, that was just like over the top for me. And I was just
Major,
like,
major culture shock.
yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I hate my life. Like, why has God done this to me? Why has He put me here? Like, what's the purpose of this? And just a lot of negative thoughts started to enter into my mind. And yeah, I cried myself to sleep every night of my life there, pretty much
No.
until like I was like a junior or senior. And yeah, I felt like I couldn't share my grief or my struggles with my family because I didn't want to be
Yeah.
the one or the cause of them having to leave the mission field. I didn't want to put that pressure on them.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just kind of like shoved it down and dealt with it myself. But I think that had a very negative impact on me as well because I started having really dark thoughts and yeah, just things that weren't good. And I think yeah, like my friends, they played a huge role in getting me out of that negative headspace in that area. I don't know if we talked about this on the any previous episodes, but my situation I feel like was very unique to the MK world, whereas a lot of the MKs were born there or were brought at a very young age and grew up there with their parents, whereas I was 14 and then had to start my life there. So I just felt like a fish out of water, like nobody could relate to me or understand me. But one thing that the Lord did that was just absolutely amazing, and I know it was the work of Him, was on our little mission base, He brought another family, the Peachies, and he brought them, and they had a daughter, and each daughter was like exactly my age, and a daughter was exactly Brooke's age, Savannah and Hannah, and they went through the exact same thing that we did. They were brought to Papua New Guinea the same exact age as we were. So He brought somebody who could relate to me and that would understand me when nobody else, I felt like, ever could. And so that was just like a really big impact in my life, was having a friendship that I'm like, wow, like you actually understand me. Like we relate to each other, and we would have little crying pity parties. We would cry with each other, or we would just,
Yeah.
yeah, have like remember
It's
things
nice that
about our,
people get it. Yeah.
yeah. And so that was just like a huge turning point. And I was like, okay, like I think I'm going to be okay here. And
Yeah.
yeah, after we moved from ITF, we went to another base, Sabega, and there was a lot of moves in between there, but Sabega was like our final resting spot there in Papua New Guinea. But uh,
Yeah.
anyways, so yeah, it wasn't until like my junior, senior year when I feel like I started to want the Lord back into my life and started to have a relationship with Him. And after that, like my whole like mindset just completely flipped, and I started to fall in love with Papua New Guinea and the people of Papua New Guinea. I wanted to go out and experience every possible experience I could have. I wanted to learn the language. I wanted to just, yeah. So just a complete like 360 flip once I didn't wallow and stay in that grief period.
Yeah, definitely a God thing because I'm like, I can see, like, I mean, especially when it's like a whole turnaround of like your perspective just changed. So, really
Yeah.
good.
And I think too, it's like so important to not stay in that grief. I know it's incredibly hard, you guys. I feel like I was so depressed, like I needed medicine. I feel like that's how depressed was. Like my heart, the muscle itself felt like it was aching. It was broken. Like
Wow.
that,
Yeah.
and I just cried and cried all the time. Like my heart physically hurt. I was grieving as if somebody important in my life had died. And yeah, I know it's hard to get out of that place when you're in it, but I feel like time also is the best healer for grief. It just takes time, and no amount of people preaching Jesus to you, unfortunately, can change that sometimes. And it's just time, and God will do his work in you over time. And that's exactly what he did for me. And yeah, once I was able to work through some of those things and then come back to him, yeah, it was definitely a 360 flip, able to enjoy my time. And I made some of my best friends in the whole world over there. Joanna and Melanie are my bestest friends ever. Yes. And we have so many fun experiences and funny stories that we could tell you guys. And yeah.
That was amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's definitely, I'm really glad that God brought you to Papua New Guinea. I'm glad that he brought you into my life, because definitely when I met you, you were so positive about Papua New Guinea. That was
I was like, I'm on a mission now.
That was the stage of life I met you in. So I just felt like this girl is so cool. Aww. She loves it. She wants to be part of the culture. Yeah,
I did. It was a 360 flip. You did not want to meet me prior to that. I was not a happy camper.
Yeah. So no, that's really encouraging just to see that how far God took you through that grief, and just like. Yeah, like he is a source of comfort too in times of trouble. And like I know there's a verse that mentions that God is our comfort in times of trouble. So that's really good.
Yeah, of course. Happy to share. What about you, Joanna? Any like examples you could give us from Papua New Guinea for yourself that maybe you had grief?
Yeah, for sure. Like I felt like because our stories are a little bit different, because I would say most of my growing up was spent in Papua New Guinea. I only spent about 3 of those in Canada. So basically my entire life felt like I was at home. Obviously there was a lot of transitioning in Papua New Guinea and from different regions, but I do have to say this one's gonna make me really sad too. So I think one of the biggest griefs I probably experienced in Papua New Guinea was like I think when we were graduating and stuff. So as you know, my parents did tribal missions, and like they were like in a bush location where they were doing Bible translating, and like so like from the age of like 6 years old, I had like lived in a tribal location with the people of Pokapaki. It was located in the Sepik region. And my parents had like learned the language, had built an airstrip with other missionaries, and like we had many different partners throughout the years. But I felt like my parents had like continued to like go back into, even though we weren't living there, they kept coming back to Pokapaki, and we kept visiting the people. And I think we had just built such a great relationship with the tribal people. And I think probably the hardest grief for me would definitely be when we graduated. I do remember so when we graduated, like my brother and his wife came to spend some, like just experience Papua New Guinea and show her around. And like, I do remember that we went back into Bakapaki, into the tribe, and like, just like seeing my friends and stuff, but just knowing that it's like the last time, like these are the people that like loved you, and like people that protected us, people that like brought food to our house to share with you, and like just kind of, they were your community and stuff. And I just remember we went up in a motor canoe, little tiniest little canoe with a motorboat at the back, and like because the airstrip wasn't working anymore. And I do remember just like coming in, so like our village was like on top of the hill, our house is on top of the hill, and I remember just like coming in and just like seeing our houses on top of the hill, and all the people just waiting at the bank of the river to welcome us with open arms back for like my last time. It's been a long time like with that memory, but like and how they hugged us, and like they put like wreaths of flower, and then the Sepik region they like put mud on our faces, and like just like hugged us and stuff, and like we had like a wonderful, like I think we only spent like 3 or 4 nights there with them, and just like kind of just going to our old places. But I do remember just bawling
Yeah.
on the way back, just leaving them, getting into the canoe, hugging all my friends, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like really hard. Just being like,
Yeah.
this might be my last time seeing
Mm.
some of these girls that I grew up with as a child, or like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a little
Yeah.
hard, just that emotion of just being like, this was my parents' ministry. These were people that poured into our lives. Like, I felt like, yeah, I just lost a bit of my family that I had grown up with in
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea. So I think that was probably one of the biggest losses, like saying goodbye to the Pukapiki people, and then also like saying goodbye to Wewak, a place that I had gone to conferences with. Like we used to do our conference where all the missionaries got together, and like, yeah, I just remember just like the sadness that I felt, especially in grade 12, like I'm leaving everything and I don't know if I'm coming back, and I haven't gone back, and it's like it's been like really sad, and like my parents have like retired now, and in a way it kind of feels like I might never go back because like my parents aren't there, and it's just like, yeah, I think that was probably my biggest loss, was just like a lot of grieving. And I do
Yeah.
think that like I struggled a lot when I came back to Canada with just grieving so much, and nobody like, it feels like nobody understands, and it's like so hard to talk about, and like I have like great and wonderful friends, but it just feels like you can't really,
Yeah.
like you can't really portray the amount of loss and the amount of hardship that you went through. It's like really hard. I don't know. And you know
It's
that.
Yeah, no, it's something
Yeah.
that very few people will ever experience, and we
Yeah.
experienced it at a young age. And it's
True.
not, yeah, it's not just one goodbye that you had to say. It was goodbye to your tribal people, goodbye to the location, goodbye to Wewak, goodbye to those people, goodbye to your school. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just one small goodbye, it's like a million.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
like it
and
could be a forever goodbye. Like, and I
yeah.
think that's a thing that like it's hard to explain to some friends, or they're like, "Oh, I'll just go back to my hometown and like
Right.
just fly and like visit." And it's like that's great. But like for me, it's like for me to go back to my tribe and like visit the people I grew up
Yep.
with, it's like it's a whole other process, and it's so hard to like you
It's
live with
literally
these people.
like grieving a death because you know you're never going to go back, or the odds are very small, right? So
Yeah.
it is like a death that you're grieving.
Yeah.
But and the beautiful part of this though is that your parents were there sharing the gospel with them. So the hope that you have, you may not see them again on this earth, but the hope that you have to see them with Jesus one day is like that's such an amazing thing as well.
Yeah, literally. I do remember even saying goodbye and being like, if we don't see you on this side of the earth, you'll literally, we'll see you in heaven. So, like,
Yeah.
there's definitely a hope that, like, when I am in heaven, I'm going to be seeing some people from my
Yeah.
tribe and, like, being like, hey, you. So
Yeah.
it's something to look forward to.
That
So,
is such a cool part. Yeah.
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 But,
Very,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that image still is in my mind. Just being like seeing your home that you grew up with, and your favorite tree that you used to climb, just like in the distance as you go further away.
Oh,
So, oh,
that's
yeah,
heart-wrenching.
that was so painful. Like I do remember like
Yeah, I can't imagine.
bawling like a baby. I think I cried more in my tribe saying goodbye than I did at graduation. Like I cried at grad saying goodbye to everybody, but I was like, oh my word, like
Yeah, but that's was like your home, like where you had grown
Yeah.
up, like most of your and like we have the ability to FaceTime each other. We have the ability to maybe
Yeah.
one day meet up, so it's
Yeah.
not that devastating. Like
yeah.
it's still sad to say goodbye, but it's not that devastating. Like I will literally probably never see these people ever again, you know, and
Yeah.
that's super hard to deal with,
Yeah.
and for a child to deal with as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what's crazy is like we're all best friends over there. We're all going through the same thing, but we don't talk to each other about this stuff.
We don't talk, no.
Like, why don't we talk to each other?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
you're just
yeah, I had
in
no
it,
idea.
grinding
Yeah.
through it. Like, we're gonna get through this, and like, life is good. But everyone just pushes
Yeah.
it down, and we don't talk about it. And it needs, you guys, we need to talk about these things with your friends. Like, God has put them in your life to support you, and
Yeah.
it's just you need to talk
Yeah.
about it.
And just like, yeah, just it's just nice to just hear like, okay, like you also went through things, and like I also like I think sometimes we don't know how to ask those deeper questions, and I think that's something I'm actually figuring out about myself. Like I can ask people about themselves, but I still think I stick to very surface level. Like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, we enjoy basketball, cool, like moving
Yeah.
on, and like,
Yeah.
and yet like yeah, and people are like, oh, she's showing an interest in my life. But at the same time, I'm like, I actually am realizing I don't know how to ask people I care about really deep questions. And so,
I
yeah, I was
wonder if
very,
it's almost just like we just we know how that feels and we don't want to go back to those places and we don't want to have to bring it up and have other people feel and then go back
yeah,
to those places. But I think healing comes when we're able to talk about it and process through it.
yeah,
One funny thing that my dad always told me, and I never believed him, but like
yeah,
before we had moved to New Guinea, he was like, "Just you
yeah.
wait, you're gonna be sad to leave New Guinea. That's gonna be your home, and you're gonna be sad." And I was like, "How could dare you say that? Like this is not my home. Like I will never miss this place." And on graduation day, I was bawling my eyes out. I don't want to leave New Guinea. Yes, it became my home. So yeah,
Yeah.
God knew what he was doing, even when you're angry at him. And yeah, so
Yeah,
cool.
that's so true.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on part one of Grieving. Joanna, thank you for sharing your story with us and a little bit about what grief was like for you. I know these aren't easy things to talk about, and it's not a light topic either. So, yeah, stay tuned for next week, part two of Grieving.
Stay tuned for next week, where we will be talking about what the scripture has to say about grief, and also some practical ways that you can get help if you are going through a grieving process, and how to find healing in that grief.
Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. Our email is thecolorofhomepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to answer any questions you guys might have, or if you have a topic in mind that you'd like to hear us talk about, feel free to send that in to us as well. We look forward to hearing from you.